Hello, and welcome to Planet Food by Andy Brock. Today we're going to be taking a magical journey through the world of my food culture. As you can see, right here, we're going to start with my heritage, where my family came from recently or in generations past. I am a 15th generation Californian or something like that. My family's been here for the last couple hundred years, so California is most likely the main center of my heritage. But in addition to that, I'm also like a 30th generation American because my family came over on the Mayflower back in 1625 when the Mayflower came over. Further back than that, we can't really trace as far as my dad's side goes. But on my mom's side, my mother hails from Chicago, which is this place. You can see that building, which is Chicago. And then further back than that, my family came from Poland in the 1800s when they first moved over to America, to Chicago, and then eventually to California. Specifically in California, I reside in San Diego, which is all the way down here. It's like the bottom of California. That's why I put Comic-Con, because Comic-Con is an important part of my heritage, because nerds like me have been doing it for generations. As you can see here, we have the island of my heritage. We're going to be taking a trip around this magical food culture world that's going to go from west to east and as far as those directions have any meaning. Next thing we're going to move to is my food culture. Wow, that's specific. So it's really hard to describe my food culture because it's constantly changing as I'm constantly finding new influences, new things to eat, and generally running out of money and having to eat cheaper. So I'm going to go with what I would consider classic Andy food culture, staples from my life. The first and most important of these is probably going to be Froot Loops. I don't really eat Froot Loops that much anymore, but throughout most of my life, those have been the first thing I've eaten every day and every lunch, and just pretty constantly, to be honest. I used to eat an entire bag of Froot Loops before every single race, and the only time I didn't do that, I failed so miserably that I never wanted to eat again. So I consider Froot Loops a pretty integral part of my food culture. In addition to that, you will see we have rice, which is something I eat a lot of because it's cheap and it's easy to make, and you can put a bunch of stuff on it, and it's really good. I put plain rice here because that way it's more clearly rice, so you can tell that it's rice. Additionally, I put tortellini on the back of the rice. As you can see, we have this kind of little sushi continent which stretches out down the tortellini rice Froot Loops peninsula, going with the continent and planet theme. So, tortellini is the next little piece right there because that's something that I consider my classic food culture. Tortellini was something that my mother used to always cook for us. And I remember once when I was 9 and had just hit puberty, downing 8 bowls of it. Probably not so great an idea, but I was really hungry, and so I did. You'll also notice that most of these are only small pictures of a larger portion because I think an important part of my food culture is that I eat a lot of food. I don't really know what else to say about that other than I do. And additionally, you'll see up there we have sushi, many varieties of sushi, which I am unable to make. I'm pretty confident with the California roll and some other basic rolls. But I really enjoy making sushi. It's something I do with my family a lot, and I consider it a pretty important part of my food culture. Alrighty, next we're going to move to the religious traditions island. I don't really have any religion in my family. Stretching back as far as 3 generations, there hasn't been a theist in the house. So despite that, we still celebrate religious holidays. Not that I'm complaining about getting turkey on Christmas, but it's not really something that has any religious or cultural significance for us. It's more of a tradition thing that we turn into family time, seeing as the government's decided to give us off. So we usually will have turkey or sometimes ham for Christmas. So that's something where it's just, for whatever reason, we associate the two. Perhaps that's not particularly kosher, but it is what we do. And in addition to that, I have the volcano of chocolate pudding and the smaller subvolcano, perhaps mountain, of apple pie, which are, as you can see, rising up out of the ocean, rising. The chocolate pudding being a family recipe that's been on my dad's side for a couple of generations. My mom actually has the original one written by either my grandmother or my great-grandmother in a scrawling, shaky script from however many decades ago that we still use to this day, and I contend that there is nothing like it, and evidently I cannot communicate that to you in more than a verbal sense, but I should hope that you take my word for it. Not really. And then the other piece right there is the apple pie, but it's not really apple pie. It's actually zucchini pie. When I was a child, I really, really did not like zucchini. I don't know why. I still don't particularly enjoy the vegetable, but I find it much more easily consumed today as an adult, and as far as I'm an adult. So my mother decided that she was sick of us not eating any of this zucchini and stir fry or whatever else. My mother, being an excellent cook, decided that rather than try and convince us of the error of our ways, she would demonstrate it to us in the most, I suppose, Aesopian way possible. So she made us this amazing apple pie, and we just went through it. Me, my brother, and my dad, all three of us, we did not particularly like zucchini. So we got through the entire apple pie, and there was one slice left. And my mom got home that day, and she walks up to us and she goes, "Hey guys, how did you like the zucchini pie?" And we look and we realize that the apples had been sliced rather weirdly and for some reason had odd seeds in them, and that she had in fact managed to make fake apple pie entirely from zucchinis. And I think we all went and threw up after that, but the moral of the story, in as far as there was a moral, is don't mess with mom. Um, but also that perhaps zucchini isn't quite as terrible as I might have previously thought. Alrighty, next we're going to move on to the last and final island that I have prepared today, and that is the improbably square island of my local geography. I am from San Diego. I lived most of my life there, and San Diego is a temperate desert, so as you can see here, there's kind of, well, you can't really see because the picture's somewhat low resolution, and we're also, seeing it from space. My satellite's actually all the way out here, so we're having to zoom in pretty far. But the picture you can see here shows the juxtaposition of death and beautiful, beautiful life that is San Diego. There's just a lot of, really, really hot areas, and then a lot of nice, kind of more lush areas. It really is a temperate desert. We get that nice sea breeze being right next to the ocean, but there's also some pretty dry spots, especially if you go deeper into the county, a little bit further north and east, where it smells like a rodeo all day, no matter where you are, somehow. So there's a lot of succulents in my experience, a lot of cactus. My friend had cactus in his front yard, and we popped a lot of basketballs on it, but we also got a prickly pear harvest on occasion, which was nice. There's a lot of farmers markets and local just cultural markets. Like we used to go to the Cambodian market because my across the street neighbors are Cambodian. There's a local farmers market in my high school. My dad for some reason gets really excited when he comes to San Luis Obispo because he always wants to go to the farmers market as if it's something that we don't have at home. I mean, obviously the farmers market on Thursdays here is quite excellent, sort of. But we do have them at home. Additionally, you'll have right here a picture of Torrey Pines Beach, a picture that's been scaled down. It was actually a high-res picture until I turned it into a tiny little jutting portion of the improbably square islands of the geography of where I am from, that being San Diego. Torrey Pines Beach is probably my favorite beach in San Diego. It's within biking distance of my house. It's about 12 miles. It's a nice 30, 45-minute bike ride. It's got this bridge that goes right over it, and there's water that goes in there because that's what water does. And it's a nice little sunset there, again, just showing that San Diego really is it's a coastal town in a way, because there's a coast, and it's a town right on that coast. And then additionally, we have a picture of me in my scooter scarf. The scooter scarf being the height of the fashion at the time when this picture was taken. And you can kind of see here that there's a nice sunny day in San Diego because San Diego's sunny, but there's also clouds because San Diego also tends to be fairly cloudy. That's just what I grew up with. So coming to SLO and having there be wind and at least a moderate degree of quote unquote air quotes weather was somewhat annoying, but I got used to it. And San Diego now seems a little bit like a distant memory, but I do recall that there was lots more sun, lots more clouds, and a lot less wind. We're actually going to go back to the religious island. Because something I forgot to mention was this amazing picture of me pointing at my face as I eat an oyster. That's from our trip to New Orleans, back in 2008. I wasn't for most of my childhood really an adventurous eater, but around that time I started to realize that food is amazing and that I like to eat it. And so when we were in New Orleans, which is a pretty big center of a lot of different kinds of food, I found it to be an excellent opportunity to be adventurous and try new things, and I never had oysters before, at least in my memory. And so we went into this tiny little store, restaurant, shop downtown, where we met the world champion oyster shucker who would juggle shot glasses and oysters while he prepared his delectable, delicious creations. So this picture is of me eating an oyster and pointing to it. It was something that just seemed like a rite of passage because it was something that my father and his fathers before him, I'm sure, would have enjoyed if they ate anything other than red meat. My father not included. But it was something where it was just like the fact that I was eating this weird thing was just so very Brock, and that's why I put it up with the tradition and religious stuff, because I don't really have a religion, but for a lot of people, religion is a very important defining things in their life, and eating random stuff that tastes good is a pretty defining thing in my life. Pointing at it while taking a picture of it and making an awkward face, not so much. Well, perhaps, evidence notwithstanding. And that's the world of my food culture. We're going to get to the last bit, which is the images that reflect my health beliefs and values, but unfortunately those are actually in the core of the food culture earth, which we're going to have to go deep down to find. I believe that the best way to stay healthy is to strive to always fit into your tight leather pants, tight leather pants, tight leather pants, tight leather pants. And to do this, you should exercise vigorously, but first stretch vigorously, because you never know when you're going to have to vigorously slap someone with your vigorous arm strength. Exercise, 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 victory, which is great for exercise because it makes you want to exercise more. Exercise with friends, with basketballs and balls. Exercise shirtless with friends. It's also good to eat. Eating cake is awesome because cake is delicious and makes you want to eat more. It's also good to eat with friends, just like exercising with friends, eating with friends. And after you've gotten enough friends and you've had enough to eat, then you can go and grab your best guy or gal or broom or guy and go dancing, because dancing is an excellent form of exercise which makes you happy, 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 and is great. But I think that the most important part of health is making sure that you always have love in your life, because without love in all of its various many forms, then I don't believe anyone can truly be healthy. Well, we've reached the end of our program. Thank you for watching Planet Food with Andy Brock. I hope you tune in next time to watch Planet Tight Leather Pants, which is my most favorite planet of all and has a 30 special minute segment all based on tight leather pants. Thank you. Good evening.